People always ask if I believe in ghosts. The answer is yes, but not because I want to. I believe because of what happened to me when I was 27. At the time, I had just taken a teaching job in a small, rural town. I didn't know anyone there, and I didn't have much money. So I rented a little cottage behind an older couple's property. It was small but quiet. Just me, 2 rooms, and a yard that backed into the woods. The couple who owned the land, Mr. and Mrs. Parson, were kind but strange. Mrs. Parson walked with a cane and always stared too long. Mr. Parson barely spoke. Still, they offered the place cheap, and I took it. The first few weeks were peaceful. I taught during the day, came home, cooked, and read. But one night, maybe 3 weeks in, I was brushing my teeth when I heard a sound coming from the wall behind the bathroom sink. It wasn't the pipes. I know what pipes sound like. This was different. A faint knocking. 3 slow taps. Then silence. I waited. Nothing. I went to bed trying to forget it. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, right around 11:30 p.m. Tap, tap, tap. And again, the night after that. I knocked back once, half joking. Nothing responded. But when I turned off the light and walked to bed, I swear I heard it. A whisper. Not loud, almost inside my head. Don't. The hairs on my arms stood up. After that, things escalated. I started hearing movement, soft scratching in the walls during the night. One time, something brushed past my leg under the blanket. I thought it was a spider or a draft, but the feeling lingered, like static on my skin. I slept with the lights on after that. One night I woke up at 3:21 a.m. to a loud bang in the kitchen. I ran out, heart pounding, and found the cupboard doors wide open, every single one. I didn't hear footsteps, didn't hear anything break, just open, like someone had walked through looking for something. I told Mrs. Parson the next morning, trying to sound casual. She paused, then said, "It's best not to disturb things once they've settled." I laughed nervously. Like, what? Mice? She just looked at me and walked away. The next day, I came home to find something new. A small crack in the wall above my bed. Hairline thin, but stretching from the ceiling down to the window. I hadn't noticed it before. At night, when the wind blew through the trees, I started hearing a voice. A woman, maybe, but distorted, like it was coming through a radio with a weak signal. I couldn't understand the words, just the emotion, sad, angry, desperate. I recorded it once, played it back the next morning. There was nothing, just silence. But the audio timestamp was exactly 3:21 a.m. I started having dreams. Always the same. I'm standing in my room, but something's different. The wall is missing. Instead, there's a hole. Inside it, someone is crouching, their face turned toward me. But I can't see it. Just a hand, reaching slowly out of the darkness toward my face. I can't move, can't scream. Every time I wake up gasping, that crack in the wall seems deeper. One day I came home to find a piece of paper slid under my door. Old, yellowed. No writing, just a handprint burned into the page. Not ink. It looked scorched into the fibers. That night, I packed a bag and drove to a friend's house 2 towns away. I couldn't take it anymore. When I returned a week later to gather the rest of my things, the wall above my bed had collapsed. Inside the cavity was a small wooden box, nailed shut, wrapped in wire. I didn't touch it. I called Mr. Parson. He showed up with a hammer, pried it out, didn't say a word. He and his wife burned it in the fire pit that night while I watched from the window. I heard Mrs. Parson whisper something as the flames rose. Words I didn't recognize. Then silence. The next morning, they said I could stay if I wanted. I didn't. I left the town entirely and never went back. I never figured out what was in the box, never found out who or what was in the wall. But sometimes, around 3:21 a.m., I wake up for no reason at all, and I swear I hear it again. Tap, tap, tap. I used to work night shifts at a small hotel just off the highway. Nothing fancy, 3 floors, 40 rooms, mostly truckers, late check-ins, and tired travelers. One room always made me uneasy. Room 313. It was rarely booked, but when it was, guests almost always asked to be moved the next day. The first time I noticed something strange, I was covering a double shift. Around 2:45 a.m., a storm briefly knocked out the power, so I was doing a floor check. As I walked past room 313, I heard a click, like the door unlocking from the inside. I paused. No one had checked into that room. Then I heard soft creaking, like bare feet slowly moving across the floor. I knocked. No answer. I used my master key and opened the door. It was empty. Lights off, bed untouched. The air was cold and heavy, despite it being midsummer. I backed out, locked the door, and blamed it on exhaustion. Later, I checked the guest history. Over 6 months, several people had complained. Whispers at night, a presence watching them sleep. One man wrote that he woke up and saw a woman sitting in the chair by the window, staring at him. When he turned on the lights, she vanished. Weeks later, I asked Marta, one of the older housekeepers, if she'd experienced anything in 313. She stared at me and said, "I don't clean that room anymore." I asked why. She said years ago, a young woman checked into that room alone. She never checked out. 3 days later, staff found her in the bathtub. No injuries, no note, just dead. After that, everything changed. Flickering lights, TVs turning on, reflections in the bathroom mirror that weren't the guests. Marta said the worst part wasn't what guests saw, but what they felt. Like the woman never left. Like she was still there, watching, waiting. I never entered room 313 again. But sometimes, during quiet nights, I'd sit alone at the front desk and see the elevator rise by itself. The doors would open on the 3rd floor. No one would come out. And the hallway light outside 313 would flicker, just once, like she was still walking the halls. When I was 22, I moved into an old, cheap house. It had creaky floors and a musty, historical smell. One night, I was watching TV. The house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the heater. Suddenly, I heard slow, heavy footsteps coming from the basement stairs. There was no door to the basement, just an open stairwell. No one else was supposed to be home. My heart started pounding. I grabbed my phone and a flashlight, walked to the stairs, and shined the light down. Nothing. Then, just outside the beam, a dark shadow moved. I called out. No response. The basement light flicked on by itself. I ran upstairs and locked the door. After that, I heard the footsteps every night at the same time. Slow, steady, up and down the stairs. Sometimes, I saw a shadow, just barely, lurking at the edge of my vision. One night, I set my phone to record the stairwell. I left it running and went to bed. The next morning, I watched the video. At first, nothing. Then, a faint dark figure appeared on the stairs, standing still before vanishing. I moved out the next week.